everyone. I'm Emily Rogers and welcome to my channel. I'm new to this YouTube thing, but I've got stories, wild ones, and I figured it's time to start sharing them. I've been to Big Bend National Park more times than I can count, chasing the silence, the stars, the way the desert feels like it's holding its breath. I'm 32, a photographer by trade, and I've always loved the wild. This story, though, this one's different. It's been gnawing at me for months. I thought about going on some podcast or interview to tell it, but I chickened out. Who'd believe me? So here I am, starting this channel instead, hoping you'll listen. This happened last summer, and I still don't know what I saw out there. Let's get into it. The sun had just dipped below the jagged horizon of Big Bend National Park, painting the Chisos Mountains in hues of burnt orange and deep purple. Ethan Carver, a 32-year-old freelance photographer with a taste for solitude, had pitched his tent along the South Rim Trail. He'd come here chasing the kind of silence only the desert could offer. No emails, no deadlines, just the wind whispering through the scrub and the occasional cry of a distant hawk. His camera sat beside him, lens cap off, ready to capture the star field that would soon blanket the Texas sky. Ethan was no stranger to the wild. He'd camped in Yosemite, trekked the Appalachians, even spent a night in the Everglades with nothing but a hammock and a mosquito net. Big Bend, though, felt different. Maybe it was the vastness, the way the landscape seemed to stretch into infinity, or maybe it was the stories he'd heard. Tales swapped over beers at a trilingual bar about lights in the sky. Strange shapes in the canyons, things the locals couldn't explain. He'd laughed them off. Superstition, he figured. The desert played tricks on people. As night settled in, Ethan stoked his small campfire, the crackle of mesquite branches filling the air. He leaned back against a rock, sipping instant coffee from a tin mug, when something caught his eye, a faint glow hovering just above the ridgeline to the east. At first, he thought it was a star, maybe Venus, but it pulsed, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. It wasn't a plane. Too low, too steady, and it wasn't a campfire. There was no flicker, no smoke. Curiosity tugged at him. He grabbed his camera, zoomed in, and snapped a few shots. The light didn't waver, just hung there, a perfect orb of pale gold against the black. He lowered the camera, squinting. The orb began to move, not fast, but deliberate, drifting down the slope toward the valley below his campsite. Ethan's pulse quickened. He told himself it was a drone, some park ranger's tech, but the silence gnawed at him. No hum, no buzz, just the wind and that eerie glow. Against his better judgment, he packed his flashlight and a knife, leaving the fire to smolder, and started down the trail after it. The descent was steep, loose gravel crunching under his boots. The orb stayed ahead, always just out of reach, leading him deeper into a narrow canyon he didn't recognize from his map. The walls rose high, blotting out the stars, and the air grew cooler, heavier. He switched on his flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark, but the orb seemed to absorb the light, glowing brighter as if feeding off it. "What the hell are you?" he muttered, his voice swallowed by the stone. Then it vanished. 1 second it was there, the next, gone. Ethan froze, sweeping his flashlight around. Shadows danced on the canyon walls, but there was nothing, no sound, no movement. He cursed under his breath, ready to turn back, when he heard it, a faint clicking, like twigs snapping underfoot. It came from behind a boulder ahead, sharp and staccato, not like any animal he knew. His hand tightened on the knife. "Hello?" he called, his voice echoing. The clicking stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Then, from the shadows, something stepped into the beam of his flashlight. It was tall, too tall, maybe 7 feet, its body a grotesque patchwork of angles and edges. Its limbs were thin, segmented like an insect's, covered in a chitinous shell that gleamed sickly green in the light. 2 bulbous eyes, black and unblinking, stared down at him, set above a face that wasn't a face. No mouth, no nose, just those eyes and a pair of twitching mandibles. Antennae quivered atop its head, tasting the air. Ethan's stomach lurched. This wasn't a bear, a cougar, or anything he'd ever seen in a biology book. This was wrong. The creature tilted its head, the clicking resuming, Louder, faster, a sound that drilled into his skull. Ethan stumbled back, his flashlight shaking in his grip. "Stay away!" he shouted, brandishing the knife. The thing didn't flinch. It took a step forward, its legs bending at unnatural angles, and that's when he saw the claws, long, curved, glinting like obsidian. Panic flooded him. He turned and ran. The canyon blurred past as he sprinted, his boots slipping on loose rock. The clicking followed, relentless, echoing off the walls until it felt like it was coming from everywhere. He didn't dare look back, didn't want to see those eyes again. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he pushed harder, the beam of his flashlight bouncing wildly. The trail twisted, narrowed, and for a terrifying moment, he thought he'd hit a dead end. A sheer wall loomed ahead. But no, there, a gap, barely wide enough to squeeze through. He threw himself into it, scraping his arms on the rock, his knife clattering to the ground. The clicking was closer now, so close he could feel the vibration in his bones. He wedged himself deeper, the stone cold against his chest, and risked a glance back. The creature was there, its claws probing the gap, mandibles snapping inches from his face. Ethan screamed, kicking at it, and the thing recoiled just enough for him to scramble free on the other side. He burst into the open, the canyon spitting him out onto a plateau. The clicking faded, replaced by the howl of the wind. He didn't stop, couldn't stop, until he saw the faint glow of his campfire in the distance. He stumbled into camp, collapsing beside the embers, gasping for air. His flashlight was gone, his knife lost, but he was alive. He fumbled for his camera, hands trembling, and checked the photos. The orb was there, clear as day, but the later shots, nothing. Just darkness. Dawn broke hours later, painting the desert gold. Ethan packed up, abandoning half his gear in his haste to leave. He didn't care about the photos anymore, didn't care about the story. He just wanted out. As he hiked back to his truck, he kept glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see those eyes in the shadows. He didn't. At the ranger station, he mumbled something about a bear, too shaken to tell the truth. The ranger nodded, uninterested, and handed him a water bottle. Ethan drove straight out of Big Bend, the desert shrinking in his rearview mirror. He never went back. Weeks later, editing his footage at home, he found something he hadn't noticed before. In one of the orb photos, faint but unmistakable, was a shape tall, insect-like, blurred at the edge of the frame. He deleted it, smashed the SD card with a hammer, and swore he'd never camp alone again. But sometimes at night, he still hears it. A faint clicking just beyond the walls of his apartment, and he wonders if it ever really let him go.